Welcome back to The Leftovers After Show at AfterBuzz TV. We are going to be breaking down Season 3, Episode 5, Certified, tonight, and it is a doozy. Settle in.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It might be. We are going to talk about it because, as The Leftovers is wont to do, nothing's quite clear. But thank you guys for joining us here at AfterBuzz TV for The Leftovers After Show. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. You can find me all over the internet at that Zach Wilson. I have Roxy Striar here.
Yes, you do. You guys can find me everywhere at Roxy Striar. And this was one of my favorite episodes ever.
And we got Steve Kaufmann.
You do have Steve Kaufmann. You can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That is Kaufmann. Let's dive right in.
Well, Kelly McInerney couldn't join us this week. Oh, come on, let me at least shout out Kelly. She is currently doing a stand-up tour up in the Bay Area. So if you are in the San Francisco area, check her out on Twitter at Holly Weirdo to find the dates. We are not talking about much comedy today. Because there's some dark stuff happening on The Leftovers.
I don't want to meet the person who found this episode funny.
First, I just want to get your initial reactions. Roxy, you said this was your favorite episode.
One of them for sure. I love Lori. Even when she was GR, she was still one of my favorite characters just because she was infuriating at the time. And now I think she has come so full circle and is one of the most rational people on the show, which I understand after seeing tonight's episode why somebody might disagree. But I love her, and getting a little bit more on her backstory and where she is currently and watching her kind of pull the puppet strings was so interesting.
Yeah, Amy Brennerman she delivers every time she's tasked with something heavy.
Yes.
And this episode showed just how many facets there are to Lori or Lorelai. We found out that's a whole name that we've never said once on this show.
Do you think that Damon Lindelof is a big, Gilmore Girls
fan?
Maybe.
I happened to be doing there was research reasons that I was casually watching Gilmore Girls over the weekend, so it really took me I woke up even more in the moment where it's wait, what's her name?
Yeah.
What show am I watching right now? Oh wait, crazy stuff's happening. It's The Leftovers.
Yeah.
Steve, what about you?
I think this is the first episode this season that really hit me as hard as a lot of the previous episodes have, and I think maybe it's because this whole show is built had me build a really thick skin, but this was the one where I'm like, oh god, life is meaningless. Everyone's gone. Everything is terrible. Whether the rapture happens or not, there's that level of general unhappiness, and that's part of the human condition. That it was just oh man. This is just macabre. That's the right word. Macabre.
This episode sort of begged the question, after a trauma, is anyone... how hard is it for people to truly ever recover? And if you suffer a true trauma, are you ever, can you ever really find that happiness again? Or are you just sort of masking it?
I think it would be so different if on the departure date, 2% of the population dropped dead, and you saw them drop dead. It's the fact that the trauma is that they have no idea where they went. Therefore, the trauma is ongoing. There is no, finality to it. There's no feel that this is done, that this is over, which is why year 7, I'm sure, and then year 14, year 100, whatever it is, there's always going to be those anniversaries, and people are always going to be scared because they don't know what happened.
They don't know what happened, and the date is one of the only things that they can be this happened. It happened on this date at this time.
It's a fact.
I can latch on to that fact and draw significance to it.
Exactly.
Here's what I hadn't thought about this, but how did they account for leap year within those 7 years?
Interesting.
Do we keep? I guess we keep the leap year.
Of course, we keep the leap
day.
You keep it.
Well, actually, this is way
Do
down.
we have to account so that, like, do we have to redo all the math so that the sun is in the exact same place, or if the Earth is in the same place in relation to the sun based on the day? Like,
That's bordering on a prediction, but I think there's something to be said about that, and also time zone as well. That it's happening at a different time. It happened
the
at
same
the same
moment all across the globe.
Same moment all across the globe, but the date is different if you're in Australia than it is if you're in America. But that might, like, time is such a relative thing that I wouldn't be shocked if in the next 2 weeks this show did play with that. Of, it's going to happen at 7. Nope, it actually happened at 4:35.
I think when people start thinking too hard about it, we should just drug them. It's my new solution for everything. Lori taught me well. Anytime somebody's pissing me off, anytime I don't like what they're doing, they're getting the dog pills. That's right. Yep.
I
think there should be other steps before dog pills.
Such a badass in this episode, and I love that we gave her like an episode of her own to really shine. Not that we haven't had them before, but like this was like Lori's episode.
And I feel like when we had our last guest in here, I'm going to say John, he
Kevin.
was like, but everybody knows him as John on this show.
If
but
you
Kevin
missed
Carroll.
last week's after show, we had Kevin Carroll in studio, and he talked a lot about the episodes.
Yeah, and when he came in here, he said that they were really paying off season 1 characters. That was where the main focus had come back to, which I thought was interesting because we've really seen so little of the kids. And Jill was one of the biggest parts of season 1, and Amy, your BFF, who disappeared. I just feel like you miss Amy so much.
I picked on her because like I was more picking on us because we thought she was like so important.
Amy and the twins, you're just like everything.
The point is though that this was that for sure. This was us saying Lori has been here all along. We never really got her story.
Yeah.
And we saw a little bit of how her and Kevin were before, but now it's time to really dive in.
Yeah. I'm going to switch up the order that we had before the show a little bit because as that lead us into, I want to talk about like Lori's past and setup there.
Cool.
Because like when we open on, and it took me a moment
to place her, right?
I think I placed her like just before the show like set it up.
Just before she said, I was at this laundromat.
Yeah. That was like, this is the woman from the pilot of the show who like lost her kid.
Not just the pilot, but all of the advertisements of this show.
Yes.
Everything we saw leading up to this show. This is who I thought the show was about. When we saw everything, like obviously not looking into IMDb or anything like that, I was like, wow. This is the star of the show. She's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen her since the last episode of season 1 because she was there when when all the duplicate bodies.
Right, right.
The actress's name is Natalie Gold, and Haley Harris, one of the writers, tweeted that she was credited as young mother. That she doesn't have a name.
She is so good. She's so amazing. And doesn't this open up our eyes to how many other people have stories in this world?
Yeah.
Not saying there should be a spinoff, but not saying there should be a spinoff. Just saying.
We'll have to see how it ends.
True. That's very true.
Oh God. We can do a show from the alternate Earth where 98% of people disappeared. No. But this was like it was fascinating to watch that, and this was it was her story that broke Lori. Like she was the young mother was more triggered more of this story than we ever knew.
I think it was less about her story and more about the fact that Lori felt like she had no answers.
Yes, but I just mean like her story.
It was the
sort
catalyst.
Of it was the catalyst that sort of sent Lori down this path towards the GR, which brought all of our people into this whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think Lori, up until that moment, had been a person of science. Had been
as a psychiatrist, as
a psychiatrist, not particularly religious in any strife, that it would be considered like she would be very much considered a person of science. So this was how she dealt with something that science will never explain.
Yeah, and when this woman's saying, "What am I supposed to do?" and Lori admits out loud, "I don't know," and the fact that Natalie Gold's character, young mother, is the one who kind of turned Lori on to the GR. That's an interesting way.
I found it very interesting because this was probably the second recruitment on the show we've seen from the Guilty Remnant. because I think the first
We saw
one was
Liv Tyler.
the Liv Tyler character, Meg, and then this. And in both times, they don't actively recruit you.
And
they just hang out outside your house and you either join them or you don't.
The other person we almost saw was Jill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that they do active.
Carrie
That
Coon.
is active recruitment. It's just it's their method.
They were after Nora, remember?
Yeah,
But they actively hang out outside your house and mess with you, but they don't. There's never like a hey, join us.
yeah,
What?
but that's not.
They pick people. We saw them in their meetings. They're going
it's not,
after
It's
you.
not as direct, but they absolutely are recruiting, and they
Yeah.
absolutely are doing it in a very pointed way. They're just not actually walking up to you and saying "join us," but they're making you do it nonetheless. Do you think they were outside there for Lori or for Young Mother?
I think, like Young Mother said, there is a lot of people that are going to see Lori that could be candidates. I think that hanging out outside any psychiatrist's house would be a smart place for the GR to be. But
Makes
maybe they
sense.
were doing it for Lori.
Yeah, it could have been. They're like, this is a kill two birds with one
one
stone
stone, yeah.
situation.
Or just a fish in a barrel place of like, it might be Lori, it might be this patient, that patient, this patient.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
this is just a prime location.
But like her suicide attempt was like,
For real.
yeah, like she takes all of it, and then she like has. We watch her like very calmly going through the motions until she, to the moment she I think lays down to accept it. Like as long as she's still moving, she's taking active steps, and she's like, I'm curing this. I'm actively doing something. And as soon as she stops and takes 4 seconds to think about it, she's ready to do it. She's
Yeah.
ready to die.
This show is so legit at coming full circle in individual episodes that the second I saw what was going on here, opening up with having that song in our intro, the 1-800-SUICIDE song, then watching her take all those pills, I was like, damn, somebody's not making it out of this episode alive. That we're going to see some sort of suicide at some point, and then
And, well,
we'll see. But
as you say that, and I think the chat seems pretty solidly on one side, but I know that, like, there is room for, like, do you guys, like, are you settled on that Lori killed herself at the end of this episode?
I'm settled on that.
I'm not 100% certain. If I had to guess, I would say that I think she probably did. I think that if she wasn't going to, after talking to Jill, I don't think she would have gotten in the water in general.
Yeah.
But I could see it go both ways.
I think, like, the show did leave it in ambiguity, but that's sort of the style of The Leftovers, to not show you a body.
But it wasn't the series finale.
Yes.
You know, this isn't a Soprano situation here.
Yeah.
We're gonna figure it out next week. She either is alive or she's not.
Yeah, I would say it's like, in my mind, like, I'm looking at it and it's like, I'm 75% sure she did it.
How guilty would Nora feel though?
How guilty will she feel? Like, you have to imagine she's going to find out. And
That's why I said, would she feel if this is what happened?
probably
If Lori just
yeah.
goes down there and comes back up, Nora's not gonna feel guilty. She's not gonna know anything
Yeah.
happened.
Oh, yeah.
We're not on Nora yet, but I don't think Nora cares about anything. Like, I don't think Nora cares about much right now.
I think she'd care about that.
Yeah. I think she cares about the people around her, even if she doesn't care about, like, necessarily herself or anything like that.
This is interesting. Like you said, a lot of people in the chat think she did, but a lot of people didn't. Pablo says Lori is dead if you follow the Judas story, which we can talk about a little bit later.
There you go.
Seth says, I want to say that Lori did not kill herself. And then Seth added a nice heart after that. So that's got to be good for something, right? The heart emoji must mean that that's true. Yeah, a lot of
I mean, the
seeing
thing
on
that-
both sides.
The thing that's tough is that I'm sort of asking myself why. Like, and this is sort of like, I'm posing this as a question, is like, why would Lori at this point in her life go through with it?
Well, I definitely think when she went on the boat, she was intending to do this, whether she actually
yes.
did or not. But I think that that's why when she went to Kevin, she didn't fight harder. She says, I hope you wake up. He says, I might wake up. She says, I hope you do. But it didn't matter anymore because she was saying goodbye, not because he was leaving, but because she was leaving. So I feel like, why? because she feels like she said goodbye and she's done. She thinks she's done her part.
You think she's just like effectively decided that her story is over, and so she's just like cutting it off where she feels
she's got a husband who she 100% disagrees with his beliefs. She is hearing him talk and she doesn't recognize him or his son Michael. She says to Kevin, the best thing we ever did was these kids. So she feels confident in where both of her kids are right now. She's no longer going to be with Kevin because that boat's already sailed. She says that he's already saved her and it's already done. And I think she thinks she's been placed on earth to do something that she's done.
She's been placed on earth to Judas this Last Supper, and then
I don't know that she really was I don't think that she was a Judas in terms of like if we're using Kevin as the Jesus allegory, because she didn't betray Kevin. If anything, she helped Kevin. But she did follow that. She betrayed the disciples, and she killed herself the way that, like, I guess Judas did in the Bible. Unfortunately, the three of us, not going to be a lot of help with New Testament knowledge.
Yeah.
Bunch of Jews.
I'm actually not.
Oh, you're not?
No, I'm a Christian.
I didn't know that.
Stephen
I
Thomas,
just
James
assumed
Kaufmann.
with the name Kaufmann.
Two N's, German. I can be a bit.
Steve, school us.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't saying I know my New Testament
If you're
either.
saying you know your New Testament, then go right ahead, Steve.
I was not saying I know my New
listening.
Testament. No, I think she.
Don't disappoint the priests or pastors or preachers that may have taught you.
Well,
I'm just giving you crap.
Well, no, I can't. I can't actually, because they mentioned that she was more like Saint Thomas, or the Thomas the doubting apostle, and that's when she said she was Judas. Thomas is actually my saint because he was the last to actually believe Jesus came back.
He was the last to decide that this was real.
Yes, and it
So
was only
that's-
because Jesus actually came back and he met Jesus.
So he's the one who needed proof.
He's the one who needed literal proof, which would make sense for Lori. But I think the Judas of it all mirrors more nicely, because she did.
Well, I think when she said she wasn't the Thomas, she was saying, "There's nothing you can do to make me believe, regardless."
Yeah, that's true, because she didn't
I'm
see
the
him.
Judas. I'm not.
Yeah, she
the
didn't.
Thomas.
She didn't see him die and come back.
Right. What do you guys think about if she is dead? Miriam says it's kind of sad she didn't say bye to John.
That is rough, actually.
Yeah, that is. I mean,
Especially
they are
after
married.
Evie and everything that's happened.
Yeah.
But
I think she's.
I feel.
Roxy, go ahead.
I feel as if she, and this might be phrased harshly, and I don't mean it to offend anybody, but I feel as if maybe she's lost a little bit of respect for John after learning more about him, learning more about the fact that he did believe that Evie was still out there. And even if it's not losing respect, it's like losing compatibility. And having this be the person she ended up with because of the departure, not because it was the person she was supposed to be with. I think that Lori probably believes that she was supposed to be with Kevin. And had all of this not taken place, like that was her person. She was going to drug everybody she had to have a final conversation with him. And I don't think maybe she had that for John.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have kids together. They were only together for like 2 years. Maybe maybe 2.5, but like it's only been 3 years since they met.
I think all of everything with Lori, start to finish, I think boils down to what she was thinking on that couch before she got up and decided she didn't want to kill herself at that moment. That maybe it's I don't want to disappoint my family. Maybe I don't want to leave my family in shambles. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's
And
whatever that thought is. It's one constant thread that she cleared up before.
That's probably why she actually is dead. I don't know if many people attempt suicide twice. I think, one time you figure out that this is what you want and you have that moment. And I think if you're going to go for it the second time, you probably go for it. That's been my experience, but I'm not sure, but I think that she probably is actually gone. This is interesting, though, from Eupatorius too. Sorry, I butchered that. He said she did. In a way, she's leaving him with a scuba accident lie. So,
yeah, I think that was basically like what this says to me And to be honest, like this threw me a little bit with Laurie, with like everything that I've come to know about Laurie's character, and that she is like she was before the departure, and more recently when she reconnected with her family. Like she's always seemed like a creature of science. I combine creature of habit with person of science, but a person of science, and it seems like she has been like basically what this says is that she was broken this entire time, and basically the only reason that she hadn't killed herself was out of love for her family or the people around her who would be hurt by her death, and especially by the fact that she would kill herself. Like she was thinking more about the other people than she was about themselves. And that's a lot of people talk about suicide as a selfish thing because it's all about you. You don't think about what you mean to the people around you. And I'm not saying that's 100% the case with people who do that, but it is one view of suicide. And I think that is sort of what the viewpoint that Laurie subscribes to. And at this point she sees Nora basically gives her away to do this without hurting her loved ones,
or at least
like
directly hurting them.
They'll miss her, of course they will, they love her, but Jill went off to college. Tommy survived without her for a number of years.
And that could have been the final nail in the coffin, the fact that she heard them and that they were doing so well and that they were fine. You know, it's not like Jill called her in a panic and was like, I'm not doing okay, I still need you, Mom. You know?
She knew that about them, but it was just like, it
Double
probably helped.
confirmation.
Yeah, it was like, my kids are good.
Yeah, and I will say with Laurie's story, what's interesting about what you said, Zach, is you are right that a lot of people view suicide as very selfish. But if you know people who have committed suicide, or you've ever taken grief counseling, or you've looked into it, what you learn is that people who do commit suicide a lot of times are able to compartmentalize very differently than people who don't. And I think that Laurie, because she is a therapist, is able to compartmentalize in this kind of way, where she has been able to separate her work and what she feels and all of the different things going on. And I think that she loves her kids very much. I think that she loves people, and that she was just ready. She was ready to go. The more we talk about it, the more I think she's definitely gone.
Well, yeah, it would, to be honest, like if she wasn't, it would feel like a cop-out.
Yeah.
Because they like very clearly implied it, and to not have her have killed herself at this point would feel like they were intentionally just trying to trick us.
Right.
Which isn't what this show does.
Yeah.
Without a great reason.
Yeah, that's not The Leftovers.
Especially with there being 2 episodes left. It's not like we have another season and we're like, we're going to miss her. I know.
That's so sad.
Although I will also say that as a person of science, minus the world of the departure, our world, a person who commits suicide suicide is the symptom of a mental disease. And it's the ultimate symptom of a mental disease, and that's death. So as a person of science, that's how she would feel. But the fact that she sees this as a way out is her somehow giving in to some type of supernatural or some type of unknown.
Yeah.
Of I'm broken beyond science, or
I don't
science
think she's giving
is broken.
into supernatural at all.
But she's giving into something that's beyond science, because if she was truly beyond, especially given her profession, she would 100% think, if I'm thinking of killing myself, that's a problem in my brain. Like, that's the equivalent to having a cough.
I think from her perspective, it's almost a mathematical equation of, like, the first, like, part of this equation is that I don't want to be here anymore. And the second part is I still don't want to hurt the people who are part of my life. And she's offered another third thing that would equal it all out and mean that both things can exist simultaneously when before they couldn't. And she decides to take it. Like, she has weighed all of the consequences and options, and she has decided that this is the route that is the one that causes the least pain.
Yeah,
but
Kid Justice says she's giving them closure like the handprint.
But I am saying that outside of this world, to talk about pure mental health, if her brain draws that conclusion, in our world, that's just considered, there's depression, there's this, there's that, there's anxiety. These are all, if you believe the science, reasons her brain thinks that way and came to that conclusion. And because otherwise a human being would want to keep moving forward.
It's effectively a world where everyone over the age of 7 suffered trauma in their life. Like, imagine that everybody, like, we all know, we all have people that are close to us or just that we know who have suffered great traumas in their life, and it affects them on a day-to-day basis. It affects them as they move forward. This is a world where everybody is living that.
Do you guys think, because I still believe she's a woman of science, do you guys believe that when she is saying goodbye to Kevin, she believes that Kevin is committing suicide also? With the choices he's about to make?
I think there's enough doubt.
Yeah, I think that she's... Well, I don't think that she would call it suicide because it's... He doesn't think he's going to die.
Even if you don't think you're going to die and you kill yourself.
I guess it would still technically be suicide.
If you're talking pure science, she would think he's doing that because delusions told him he wouldn't die, which would be the same.
Yeah.
The same. I think there's some break in her mind from regular science, from fact.
Yeah.
From what is known.
Yeah.
And she understands that maybe there are things that humans don't know.
Apparently, the HBO YouTube page just uploaded Amy Brennerman talking with Damon Lindelof about Lori, and she all but says she is dead.
Okay.
Thank you to Pablo and Greg and all of you guys in the chat for talking about that. So we'll definitely check that out afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't think it was up by the time we started this this broadcast. Speaking of the debate between what's real, what's supernatural, what's just a lie, let's talk about Nora and Matt in these episodes.
Another amazing storyline.
Because they basically between getting off the lion boat from last week and where we picked up here,
Matt has 180'd.
Matt has done I mean, we saw that, I think, at the end of last week's episode. But Lori has met up with Nora, and Matt along with them, and they are tracking down the physicists who are maybe sending people where the departed went.
/ also to the suicide machine.
Yes.
Whole big suicide thing. Dr. Becker and Dr. Eden.
Who are together.
Who are
lesbian lovers.
Yeah. What do you guys think about knowing...
What?
I was about to make a joke, like, don't be binary. They happen to be lovers. Their
Whatever.
sexuality
They are
not
together
implied.
in a physical way.
Yeah.
They're boning.
Or at least making out.
Yes. What do you guys think that says? Does that change your view of them or their operation at all? Like the stuff. So what we saw is we saw them together. We've tracked them to a truck yard by the coast. Where
but interesting that they have a rabid dog too.
Yeah. Well, I don't think rabid. I think they had an attack dog.
Well, I'm just saying, dogs are crazy in this show.
That's true. They could just have
a regular dog that goes cray cray.
It was a German Shepherd, which are the most traditional attack dogs.
Are we sure that was their dog and not their neighbor's dog? Because
I actually am not sure.
Laurie was climbing a fence to get a vantage point. She could have been climbing a fence from somebody else's side of the fence.
No, it looked like it came from their yard.
Yeah, I thought it was their yard, but I mean, I'm not looking at it, so I would have to double check. But so we follow them. Like from there, they leave. They go to this truck yard. It seems like their equipment is all being loaded onto a new truck to go to whatever the next place on their list is. With that information, does that change your view of their what they're doing?
I think they're kind of clear on what their thing is. It's that we have science that explains the thing that science isn't explaining. Yeah. And then we have a machine that can duplicate an unknown phenomenon. Like, they're in such murky waters that I don't think they're knowingly tricking people or lying to people. I think they think that machine is absolutely sending everyone wherever the 2% went.
Okay, I partially agree. However, the other side of that, Steve, would be the fact that if they do think that, they're obviously opening these trailers afterwards and seeing, and if they're not sending them there, there would be some form of ashes,
Residue.
something. You're not just incinerating these bodies and never going to check to see if any parts of them remain. If you really do believe that they're going somewhere.
I don't know enough about radiation, but I think there's a way to liquefy them in a way, incinerate in a way that there's
Turn
nothing.
them into a gaseous form.
Turn them into where there's nothing.
There's zero chance that there would be zero particles.
And they're
left.
scientists. They would be able to source that out.
Yes.
I also imagine that they would find a way to like video what they're doing. They wouldn't zap people without like.
Oh, I'm sure those videos exist. They just don't give them to Nora.
No, I know. I'm just saying
Or they don't exist because they know that they're killing these people.
That would.
Yeah.
Then why the baby question? Why the cloak and dagger?
Even if they do know what they're doing, why the baby question? The baby question was answered 2 different ways both times. It probably has nothing to do with the baby question.
Yeah, it's about how you answer it.
Yeah.
But they have their own faith or set of rules that they're following.
I'm really interested and fascinated in this.
But with a limited amount of time, I want to make sure we talk about like Nora in this, because Nora, she had her IUD removed.
Yeah.
Which it basically implied, because they said that was the thing that she couldn't have if she was going to go through the procedure.
Right.
And she very quickly is like, I don't want more kids. So that's the only reason to get rid of the IUD in theory would be those are the only 2 reasons that you would get it removed right now is with this much urgency is she either wants to go through the machine or she wants to have kids with Kevin.
Or she wants them to think she can go through the machine.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ambiguity
because
in
they
her.
could tell that she had the IUD.
More important,
so she could have gotten it removed just to show that she got it removed and she was ready to go, not necessarily planning on going. However, my mind more thinks that maybe she's actually planning on going.
Yeah.
But more importantly, she had the IUD taken out, then got on the plane. Before she got on the plane, she had sex with Kevin with the money.
No, she had the IUD in still.
She had the IUD.
She talked to them because they said, right? They said you need to have your IUD removed.
So she had it removed after the meeting. Okay, she definitely wants to go. She definitely wants to get zapped by this machine.
Yeah, she yelled that she wants closure.
Because also the timeline would mean she got the IUD removed after she had a huge blow up with Kevin.
The thing that the chat keeps reminding us, and that we always have to remind ourselves though, is that Nora is the one character that we know actually exists still in the future on some Earth, because we saw her.
Yeah.
As an old woman.
That's thank you for reminding us, because I almost forgot.
But that could be, I mean,
Zach, alternate Earth, Nora.
All timeline, all Earth. We don't know, but she's the one character we know at least exists in an older form somewhere.
Yeah.
Also, if we really want to get into the weeds about the IUD, they could have said no because she was pregnant, and then the why is she pregnant if she has an IUD becomes biblical mirroring of Kevin Jr.'s got magic sperm, because he's a messiah. Like,
Magical sperm Kevin.
Magical sperm that can
Magical sperm.
Just get around that IUD.
It is interesting though, Steve, like you're talking about, that we did see them have sex at the airport. It's like one of the first times I can remember actually seeing them have sex in a while. So
in this season.
I thought we did earlier in the season.
What, in bed?
Yeah.
They woke up next to each other, maybe.
I think this was the first scene of them having sex. I think we had an implied one in the first
we've definitely.
episode.
Either way,
Yeah.
That's more, I think, a question of like just how graphic the show is choosing to be at which time. But that to me was not about. I don't think that. I didn't read that as being about like her having kids or anything. I don't know enough about how IUDs work to know if it would like if taking it out now would have any effect. I don't think that it would.
I was just saying she gets pregnant in spite of science, just because that's the realm of this show.
It's possible. I mean, you can get pregnant with an IUD. It is still possible.
Yeah, Seth says they have sex in episode 1.
I knew it. But in this moment, she like I think she wants to know what happened. She desperately needs to, like, she wants those answers.
I mean, the fact that she decides to tell the baseball story in this moment, which was perfection. You know how sometimes shows do this and you're like, that was kind of a miss. This was like the perfect story. And I completely understood everything she was saying. Why would you want to be that person? And Lori gave the best answer ever. And regardless of what Lori said, I don't know if Nora does want to be that person. Even though Lori said, like, it's because you're about to save the game. I think Nora might think, maybe I'll just join him if you can't beat him, you know?
Also, I've seen beach balls go onto an outfield. It's not anarchy. Someone comes and gets it.
Oh, maybe if it's a playoff. You don't know.
But what if it fell onto the field and the ball hit it?
Yeah.
It's a dead play, automatic double. Who knows what that result will be? Well, I know, but who knows how that alters the game? And then what if it's like that's the thing that stops the Cubs from like winning the World Series in 2016 or some craziness? I'm just saying. It could cause chaos.
Oh my God. This is so random, but I have to mention this because I completely forgot about this. Eric Monroe just says, something the show never addressed. Remember last season when Meg pretty much raped Kevin's son?
Yeah.
Tommy.
It just kind of happened, yeah. And Meg is dead, so even if there was a child.
But it was there. Maybe.
I mean, I think that was about them in the moment. And, like, again, like, it made Meg's death at the top of this season even more shocking.
But she's the one we didn't see as much as Evie. Evie we knew was dead. Meg
was in the
there was a missile and a crater.
I know, but Meg's
dead.
freaky deaky.
The GR is dead in this plane. They might all be in the hotel or where the 2% went, or just the afterlife.
They're not. They are not physically alive on this earth anymore. I think we can. If there's anything we can be certain on with this show, that we can be certain of.
Wow. Dawn in the chat says the final episode title is The Book of Nora.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, the title of next week's episode is, I think it's Jesus Christ and His Identical Brother, or the Messiah. It's something and His Identical Brother, which is reference to what David Burton said last week. And we're not to predictions yet, so I'll stop.
All right. Oh my God, this is also good. We got to talk about the baseball scene again.
And Matt's
I can't really
with
go
her.
on to it again about how good Carrie Coons is as an actress. She's phenomenal. If she doesn't win an Emmy, it is a travesty.
Do you think for this or for Fargo or for both?
Exactly.
I haven't seen Fargo yet.
But I'm
Unfortunately,
saying, like,
she can't win for both, but she should win for one.
She's the odds-on favorite to win an Emmy because she's also on Fargo.
Yeah, Carrie Coon for president.
Now she's competing with herself.
She's going to be nominated against herself. I'll predict that right now.
Well, that's not going to help her win.
Eupatoris, too, in the chat, baseball stories parallel to her as an investigator. She's questioning herself.
Yeah.
So in that story, she's saying that she's the person who's trying to take down the beach ball.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because as an investigator,
because that's her
DSD,
job. Like, she knows that she's supposed to, but now she's realizing like she is sort of the spoil sport.
Mm-hmm.
I love though that she says it's about being with family, and then Matt hears that, and I feel like for the first time Matt really is looking out for Nora, and he's like, I'm gonna stay with you here. I feel like because we've seen him be selfish and do things because of God and do things because it's what he wants or how he wants to be remembered. And he's pushed Mary away, and he's pushed Kevin away, and he's pushed all of these people, Kevin Sr. away. And he's like, no, I'm going to stay with my sister, not because it's really what I want to do, but just because I'm going to be here for her. And that was cool.
Yeah, that was Matt. That was Matt stepping up and like owning like not being selfish anymore. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Lori and Kevin really quick, and like we talked a little bit about the disciples, but like there was some like real quick
like with Grace, that was such a weird situation. Where
the shoes, you mean, or just like
the shoes, and also her being like, oh, she doesn't get it, does she? And Lori's like, no, I get it, Grace. Like, what the hell is going on there? Grace is like, I'm gonna come clean. It's like, are you, bitch? Are you?
I mean, I think I think she is planning on coming clean, but she's just like, I have to make it. We have to save the world first, and then I can be punished. I take that earnestly, that she plans on turning herself in, but she knows that she can't do. But she doesn't feel like she can do it until they do what they need to do. Which
but say this doesn't work, then are they going to just keep doing things, and she's still not going to turn herself in? That's what she said after the last time.
People make excuses.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the shoes thing is freaky. It's weird and random.
That is in a show that doesn't leave anything on the table, the fact that that was said this week is like very clearly like, oh, there's something to that.
Yeah.
That those kids, that they didn't find those kids' shoes. They found those kids without shoes.
Yeah, they couldn't. They weren't anywhere, and she didn't find them in like donation bins. Like,
Did they run
the
away?
shoes got raptured, but the kids didn't.
Yeah, that's.
I don't think the shoes got
I
raptured.
mean, that was a joke.
Yeah.
Well, and to further complicate things, the book that this is all based off of, the initial cover was of shoes missing a person.
Right. Hanging over that.
That it was shoes and then smoke coming out of the shoes was the initial cover for the Leftovers book.
Gotcha.
So there's something about shoes. That's all I got.
Walk a mile.
I don't have a theory. I just know shoes are involved.
I loved Laurie's move to get to talk to Kevin,
Me
like
too.
drugging the. It was just like, oh, and then the cute little dog there borrowed your pills. It was great.
That was great.
That
was great.
I at first I thought Grace had done it for a moment, and this was gonna get like real weird. That I thought Grace had drugged everybody because Laurie started. I think she was just playing with people like get them to fall asleep because she was acting a little like loopy-ish.
Yeah.
When she was talking about Judas, like to Michael, but then they all just went down.
Wait, Matthew
savage.
Power says Kevin Sr. had a bag of shoes when Laurie drives up. I don't remember that. Do you guys remember that?
I don't
recall that.
Dawn says hashtag shoegate.
There's something to the shoes, guys.
I will have to go back and rewatch. I did not notice a bag of
But
shoes.
if Kevin Sr. had a bag of shoes, that means he somehow found it before Grace found it, and he's hiding it because he has his own narrative similar to the ARC story that we're hearing now.
That's possible. Yeah,
Or maybe she sent him out looking, saying, go get bags of shoes at this Goodwill. I haven't checked that place yet. We're searching.
Ooh, that's way more logical.
I also think something earlier we were talking about in the chat really briefly to mention is that we still potentially have a hotel situation coming up. And if we do, could Laurie maybe be there?
She could be, and that'll freak Kevin out.
Yeah.
What are you doing here? I mean, if we go to a hotel, if we go back to the International Assassin Hotel, which, if I'm being honest, I don't think we will, because to me that if he actually gets back to the same hotel, that feels too much like an answer and too satisfying for the Leftovers to do for us.
But
Because
maybe
because
we're
then he'll
coming to
learn.
an end. Maybe we are ready for an answer of some sort because we're
Maybe
coming to the end.
it's possible. But
I just want it, so I'm saying that.
I know it would be really nice.
I do think if they're if HBO on their YouTube page, and this is like showbiz me trying to predict. I think if Amy Brenneman's on the YouTube page for HBO right now, that means she's not in the next 2 episodes.
Doesn't
That's if we're really piecing it all together. I would think
that's how they're tricking you, man.
I don't know.
I've
think
seen networks do that before, where they like put somebody on a death tour, like interviews and everything, like show them off, like because they know what the playbook is when a character dies, like they have to do it.
Oh my
so they just
God.
run through that playbook, and when that character isn't dead, the audience is just like, what?
Remember Kevin in the, I'm kind of taking this from George, but remember Kevin when he goes to the hotel with all the suits in the closet? Imagine if Laurie goes and it's all just scuba suits. Yeah.
Oh, we get Laurie in the hotel, like not Kevin, but like Laurie's perspective.
that we find.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think we have the weeks for that, but I don't.
One of you said magic sperm before. I'm pretty sure it was Steve.
How'd you guess?
so much water and swimming and shoes.
So, but yeah, I really loved their Kevin and Laurie's conversation too. Like it was sort of like a confession in a way, where they like.
Oh yeah,
again,
her
this
telling
was
that
like
she was pregnant.
This was closure for Laurie. Like all the things that she had hidden from the man that she spent more time with than any other person on the planet.
I love that she said she was pregnant. I love that she admitted to spending $2,000 a night. I love that he was coming clean about stuff. One thing that was curious to me, though, earlier in the episode when she was talking about him, when she said that when she was asked if he was a good husband, she said, yes, he saved me. What do you think specifically she was referring to?
I thought she meant from the GR.
Because he did do that.
Kind of Jill. Kind of Kevin.
Could it mean...
That lighter thing was awesome, too, by the way.
Yeah, the exchange and the fight.
Yeah, and the black eye.
Everything about it.
I think if we're going start to finish, that the idea that she doesn't like the tell me what to do of it all at the beginning of this episode, that maybe she joined the Guilty Remnant because she was looking for meaning and understanding in a universe she doesn't understand anymore. So maybe Kevin, whether she believes in Kevin or not, she somehow found that in him. Would be a good theory on why she said it. Why she said that.
I think it was fascinating that Kevin decided that he said I never felt more alive than when he was in the hotel on the other side.
Yeah. Keeping in mind that when we saw Kevin earlier this season, he had a bag over his head.
Because I think he was trying to get back there.
Maybe.
Or he's trying to get close to there.
That's what that says to me. That's what that really solidifies that his the suffocation thing was him trying to knock himself out to the point where he was back in the hotel.
Chase
and he just
says,
never made it.
Chase says no, the car wreck he saved her in. Then earlier Philip said the fire. So it could be literally.
Yeah,
could
there's
be
a number of ways, but I think
yeah.
that all of his actions got her out of the GR.
Vincent, I was hoping to hear Kevin admit about cheating on her in the last memory they had.
Yeah.
Remember when she disappeared? She departed, the person Kevin was banging?
Yeah. Did they? For some reason, I thought Lori knew about that.
I feel like Lori knew about it, but I don't think he ever told her. I think he knew.
I cannot tell you. I cannot remember why I think that, but I
think she knew he was cheating on her.
Yeah.
I don't think she knew the whole story we know of where he was when the departure happened.
Yeah. Interesting.
This chat is lit right now.
Yeah,
I'm all about this chat.
I'm obsessed.
You guys are great. I love all of your theories coming in. We have to wrap out, so let's do some real quick predictions towards next week's episode, which is the most powerful man in the world and his identical twin brother.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Identical twin brother.
That's the full title. Is all of that,
Yes.
and his identical twin brothers in parentheses. The preview looks crazy.
And the preview seems to be for the next 2 episodes as well.
I didn't see the preview. What? So
Did
what's
it
going
say on the next?
It said
two?
in The Leftovers. There's 2 episodes left in The Leftovers, and then it showed all of these things.
Interesting.
Everything seemed in place except for the scene with Nora. She seemed to be in a
Wait,
bathtub.
what did we see? Tell me, guys.
Steve.
We see the scene that I'm pointing out is Nora.
Nora's in the bathtub like the hotel?
It was a bathtub under candlelight, and the bathtub in the hotel didn't have candlelight, but it was Nora in what appears to be a bathtub saying something to the effect of you're gonna have to come and get him, or he's never gonna give up. And then they're implying that that's about Kevin Sr. working with his disciples to try, and his disciples are trying to convince him to keep trying to go back to the hotel.
Yeah, we do see Kevin going underwater via the seesaw for a quick moment, but we don't see much of the results.
Yeah.
Or we obviously don't see the results, or we don't see anything on the other side. We don't see any glimpse of the hotel or anything like that. But I'm so excited for next week. I can't really honestly offer any predictions at this point other than what I've already said.
Don Escobar, David Burton from Matt's episode said something about Jesus having an identical twin brother too.
That was on the
That's
card.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Also, I can admit I was dead wrong last week when I thought the guy in the submarine was Guilty Remnant.
I forgot about that.
Oh,
He was trying to
yeah.
stop a Godzilla monster from hatching out of the volcano.
Makes
Leviathan.
perfect sense.
A Leviathan, which is mentioned in Revelations, and it was hysterical that Matt was like, "You're not supposed to take Revelations
Matt's
literally."
like, that's stupid, man.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to take the ridiculous parts of the Bible literally. He's like, "Yes." Like, that was
He
one of
was yeah.
As an agnostic, that was one of my favorite scenes of this whole series.
That was a phenomenal. I loved that exchange.
Yeah.
It was great. That was a great exchange. All right, we have to wrap out, guys. That's going to do it for this episode of the Leftovers After Show. Real quick, we talked a lot about suicide in tonight's episode, and if you're out there and you're having any thoughts that you feel you need to talk about, if you're thinking about hurting yourself, or you know somebody who is thinking about hurting themselves, the number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. Call them, and there are people that will help you through whatever you or someone you know is dealing with.
Yeah, people who are attracted to this show usually will have some
It's a
deep
very
thoughts.
dark
So,
show, and we
glad you
talk
said
a
that,
lot
Zach.
about it, but it's this is a real thing, and people really do need help, and there are people out there who are willing and able to help you through.
And regardless of our theory of
struggles.
this being a solution for Laurie, it's not a solution in real life.
Yes,
Would be the easiest
absolutely.
way to go about it.
Yeah, and so that's it for AfterBuzz TV's Leftover After Show. I have been your host, Zach Wilson. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson. I also host the Doctor Who After Show here. We just finished this season of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. After Show. I also have a sketch team, Turncoat Comedy down at the Pack Theater. If you go to Twitch TV, switch.tv/Geek and Sundry, we just did a live set on Gather Your Party there on Friday. It got real ridiculous. I may have belly crawled across a stage. Go check that out on Geek and Sundry's Twitch.
All right, guys, I'm Roxy Striar. You can find me everywhere at Roxy Striar.
And I'm Steve Kaufmann. You can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That's Kaufmann. Those of you who are interested in WWE Backlash, I'll be in this very room in about an hour talking all about it as part of my triple header tonight. I'm also doing Gotham and Better Call Saul tomorrow. Also, my improv team is doing a lot of awesome stuff. It is The Show That Shall. It's at Show That Shall on Twitter. They'll tweet about their shows.
Check them out. They're funny guys and girls. All right, guys. This has been the Leftovers After Show. Thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.